I'm a habits girly through and through because I burnt out really early and paid the price for it. So now I understand how much these habits really have an impact on my health, my happiness, and even my wealth. So I've narrowed it down to my top 6 habits that I feel like were definitely the most impactful in helping me become a millionaire by 29. The most common money habit that really tends to get us in trouble, myself included, is avoidance. The closer you stay to your money, the less scary it becomes. The first thing that's really helpful is doing a weekly money check-in. For us, we love to do this on Friday mornings. It's a nice end of week, makes you feel a little more solid going into the weekend, but you don't even necessarily have to do anything with your money on Fridays besides take a look around. What are you spending? How are things sitting? It's a really good habit, and I think it's been something that has really been a driver of me setting these financial goals, and staying close to them allows those goals to remain a priority, and then also slowly shakes away all of the stress that you may have around money because you actually know what's going on. The way I'd explain it is if you're checking in with your money every Friday, there's only so much that can happen in that week. Whereas often what we do is we let it build up, and the longer we've gone without checking in with our money, the scarier it becomes because we really don't know what we have to expect when we check. At the beginning, this is a really great habit to get comfortable with your money and kind of mitigate risks or things that might happen. And then as you progress, I actually find it a really great tool to find new opportunities when it comes to your wealth building. Another habit that's actually going to make that first one easier is what I call the vision, macro, micro framework. Setting money goals is something that will give you an excuse to check in regularly and make those check-ins more exciting than the check-ins just being about bills that you have to pay. So the first thing is setting the vision. So really, what are you working towards? This can be the intangible things like I want to feel flexible in my time, my energy, my resources. I want to feel in control of my days. I want to feel like my work is something I'm passionate about and not something I have to do to pay my bills. That would be an example of what we're working towards as that vision. Depending where you are in your financial journey, that vision might be a little bit more general or a little bit more clear. So once you have that vision set, the second part is that macro, which is really about figuring out the logistics. So I think of that as the macro goal. So I have the vision here, and then almost like right under it is the logistics, the macro goal. So for us, the macro goal would be having 2.5 million invested by the time we're 40. For a long time, that macro goal for us was having $1 million invested because honestly, when we set that goal, it felt like something that seemed like a good thing to shoot towards. It sounded like a lot of money invested for us. It felt like we'd be in the clear if we did that. And honestly, it felt so far away, even though we ended up achieving it sooner. If you don't know exactly what the macro goal can be, take our $1 million example where set something that feels far away, but still tangible that you could go after. And actually, if you are someone that likes to play with AI or ChatGPT, you can actually have one of those programs ask you questions. So if this is how I want to be when I'm 40, what things do I need to consider based on the lifestyle you want to maintain or your current income and things like that, how much money they think you need to have invested, or maybe it's not an investment plan you're looking at, but figuring out what is that macro goal so you can be working towards something tangible, but that feels like a big, scary goal. And then the last part of it, which is honestly my favorite, is the micro goals. So we love looking at milestones because obviously just looking at that $1 million or that 2.5 feels very far away, but if we can set smaller micro goals, those are gonna prompt us to check in more, stay close to our money. And they're also just more fun because you're gonna get more dopamine hits along the way. I really believe this framework of the vision, the macro, and the micro has also helped me get to where I wanna go faster because it just makes it so tangible of you have this dreamy thing you're chasing, but then you also have these little things to get excited about on the way. So you constantly feel like you're achieving something and there's just a really nice structure to it. Now, how do you get better at setting those? One of the most impactful habits for me has been not buying into this independence narrative. We get really caught up on these terms like self-made or this person achieved X, and it's always very siloed. My network has been so fundamental to me achieving this millionaire status by 29. And it's not just because opportunities might come from knowing the right people, but it's really just about, for me, more than anything, having people to ask questions to and being willing to ask those questions. Don't introduce yourself to the role model you aspire to and then immediately maybe ask how much revenue they're doing in their business. But I think if you can focus on fostering connections of people who you aspire to be like, and then your peer circle as well, you will naturally find those environments where you're in conversation and it feels appropriate to ask those kind of questions. And when we ask those kind of questions, that's where we get the context we need. Recently, 2 of our friends have actually rebuilt properties from scratch, and we've been able to go in, witness this process, and ask them a lot of questions while we're visiting. A lot of the time, people who are doing these projects are so passionate and they're also geeking out on it too. So in those kind of environments, when they're walking you through the property they're working on and they're talking about the tiles they're putting in and they're talking about this feature wall, that's where that space kind of opens up to go, well, how much did these renos cost? How much do you expect to profit off this? And it's really that safe environment to ask where it doesn't feel like you're poking and it's actually just peers really connecting on something. I also believe in it being very full circle. So if you're looking to people you aspire to, you're also speaking to your peers, make sure you're also giving back to your own community and having those conversations with the people who are maybe behind you and help them in the same way that other people are helping you. Now, building off that habit of letting go of the independent narrative is curate your inputs. Curating my inputs really looks like being so selective of what I'm consuming and what I'm letting into my space. Listen, I'm a positive person. I always see the bright side. I always see the silver lining. And so that's one example where for me, I can't surround myself with content or people that want to harp on the negative at all times. When we moved to Toronto, this was really interesting because it kind of felt like a test of sorts, where when we would tell people that we were moving to Toronto, we would really observe which people went straight to a negative and which went straight to a positive. People who tended to be more like us, especially more entrepreneurial, immediately saw the opportunity and were so excited for us. And then this other camp of people were so quick to bring up the negatives about a city like Toronto, the traffic, the cost of living. And it was really interesting to observe which type of people you want in your life. But what are some other ways we can curate your inputs? First is unfollowing accounts that don't share your values or goals. Now, this next one might be a little bit controversial, but mute your friends or peers. If someone's content is triggering you, I just feel like no one wins. It might create a weird dynamic with that person just from you behind the scenes, and it doesn't make you feel good. You might be going through a season where maybe you're slowing down, or maybe you just are going through a lot of things in life, and you might be seeing people post income updates or how much they're investing. And so I'm such a fan of muting or, scrolling past that content if it's not serving you. And if it is somebody that's a friend, just a reminder, you can catch up in real life ways. So if I'm in a phase where maybe I'm trying to focus in and those pieces of content could be triggering or distracting, I will catch up with those friends through FaceTime, through texting, and it just creates a different dynamic when they're telling you an exciting update one-to-one and you can really cheer for your friend versus feeling like it's popping up when you're least expecting it, especially if you're going to Instagram to post something and all of a sudden the first post is about how much money someone's made. And the last 3 quick ways I'll give you to curate your inputs is to leave relationships that don't serve you, intentionally consume content. So add in, if we're taking out a lot of those things, we also want to be adding in. So find YouTube channels, hopefully like this one, or podcasts that talk about these things in a way that feel really good to you. Instead of just doing a doom scroll when you're anxious, thinking about logging on and saying, what would I like to consume? What would I like to learn today? I would say I generally don't have a lot of controversial takes, but I feel like in this video and the way that I approach money actually ends up having more than I think. So this next habit is actually about experiencing lifestyle creep. Yes, the thing that everyone says to avoid in the personal finance space, I want you to lean in, just a little though. I am doing all of this because I want to experience a better lifestyle, a creep in lifestyle. I want to experience more, which is why I'm going after these goals. And so I want to experience that along the way. That's why we have so much of an emphasis on building for tomorrow, but still living for today. I think when you get to tap into a higher lifestyle, it really recharges you because it's often going to be a luxury experience of some sort. And it's something that's going to give you the energy to keep working towards those goals. It really inspires you when you get that taste of it. I picture it like, I'm thinking of my dog Luna, like the first time that she gets like a piece of steak, she's got a little taste and now she knows that she loves steak and wants more of it. So I think it can be a really inspiring tool to give you that taste and make you want to keep working towards it. But this is the important part. How do you actually do it? Because I don't want you to use me as your excuse to go add a bajillion expenses to your life and be like, Mal told me to do it. This is how I'm gonna get wealthy. No, we don't do it with recurring charges. So something like signing an apartment where the rent is something that you're really stretching to afford, buying that new car where the car payments are really expensive. Those recurring charges really set you up to fail because it's something that you have to maintain consistently, and you already have a goal of investing a lot of money. So if we now have higher expenses and high investing goals, it's really gonna add a stressor to your life. Instead, really focus on experience-oriented things. So a big one for us when it comes to lifestyle creep is when we travel, we stay at nicer hotels. Years later, we're still talking about hotels that we stayed at. I'm like, oh, remember the Dallas hotel? Remember the one hotel? And it's been such a part of the experience for us. And it's kind of that way of, instead of getting the really fancy apartment that you're going to push to afford each month, you get to just like have a little moment where you're living in an even nicer apartment. It's just short-lived. And a quick pro tip for that, we use Amex Platinum and they actually have a travel booking system through Amex itself. And it has all these other perks to it. But the one I want to highlight is you get a room upgrade if available. So sometimes we will splurge a little bit more for the slightly nicer room because we know that when we get there, we're probably gonna get upgraded to the even nicer one. And that has been such a fun way to experience an even bougier lifestyle, but not for the price tag. This one I'm so excited to share with you because I think it sounds counterintuitive, but lean into lazy. I burnt out really hard while building my first business, and so that really pushed me to have incredible work boundaries in this next chapter of my life. I've allowed myself to act a little bit spoiled in that way of asking myself, how can I get the best return on my energy? And so that often means I'm really creative with the projects I say yes to or the projects I want to pursue, based on just truly thinking through, of course, am I passionate about this? But then looking at, do I feel good about the energy that I have to put in order to get that monetary return? We were raised on such a generation of hard work equals money. Hard work is the thing that you're supposed to do. Hard work pays off. But if you can find the right projects for your strengths, your skill sets, your energy levels that you want to use, if you can really cater to yourself, then it actually just feels very in flow. And money feels easy. And that feels like such a privileged thing to say. I'm not saying everything always works out. It's not always sunshine and rainbows and can just pick it off the trees at any point as an entrepreneur. But I really think leaning into the lazy has shifted my perspective on not trying to wear that badge of busy or hard work and really thinking about, how can I make my money work? And how can I get creative with how I make my money, where I put that money, and then how I make that money work in even more ways for me. Honestly, that's even why our channel exists, because we really want to help other people get creative with their money and find the ways that things can feel really in flow so that you can grow your wealth without sacrificing your health or happiness. Okay, and a super quick bonus one that I think I'll go into in another video, but gamify your income and your investments. I talk a lot about gamifying your investments, but a whole side I haven't gotten into is gamifying your income. And if you can make it feel like a video game to make money, that is gonna put you so far ahead. I'm really enjoying having these money chit chats with you, and I'd love to know if you have any questions or if you're enjoying these videos. It would honestly mean the world to hear from you in the comments. Making content can be such a weirdly one-way thing, and so it really means a lot. If this was interesting to you, if you want to share which habit stood out to you the most, or if you have any follow-up questions, just let me know below.